Those who tell stories rule society. That's what Plato said. And in this video, let's talk about Hollywood and the critical role. It could even be called the tip of the spear, excuse me, for the agenda that is playing out in our world and the uh, changing of hearts and minds, right? The directing of hearts and minds. Things started to really click for me during COVID times, quite frankly, and I started to put it together. I hadn't really seen it before, you know, how critical Hollywood is to the bad guys' agenda of total world domination, and again, dominating hearts and minds. Because, like I said, those who tell stories rule the world. They tell stories in movies. They tell stories in music, in arts and entertainment, in pop culture. Storytelling is integral to the human experience. We all know it. I don't think, at least I don't think people put enough thought into what they're watching. Saying that I didn't is an understatement. Absolutely 100%. I talked about this in a prior video. We're watching these movies. They're so entertaining. We're eating this food. It tastes so good. We don't know what it's doing to us, right? The preservatives and chemical flavor enhancers and dyes and hydrogenated oils and, seed oils, all of these things that are in this food that is engineered to taste really good and in many cases be very addictive. It tastes so good, we're like, oh my gosh, this is delicious. On the back end, we have no idea the damage it's doing to our body. People are waking up. I'm waking up. We're all waking up. But regarding these movies, they're so entertaining. Action and stories, they're using the hero's journey story arc, call to action, meets a mentor, trials and tribulations, come out on top. The meticulous scripting of these stories. I mean, it's a formula, but behind that, the message that is being pushed into our consciousness by these movies, in many cases, is not in our best interest. Not even talking about the fear and anxiety that horror movies and dark, demented movies push. I haven't watched a horror movie in probably over a decade. I don't like them. I don't like that. I don't like those horror movies. They're just sketchy. The Saw and the Human Centipede and all the just the grossest stuff you could imagine coming out of Hollywood. I don't know how people put that into their consciousness and then go out in the day and be like, it's wild. It's wild. I mean, some of the stuff coming out of Hollywood in the horror genre, ooh. The thing of it is, I don't think, it's like frog in hot water. I don't think Americans realize how sick the movie industry has gotten. And because we're just conditioned, we're going to go to the movies and watch this stuff, right? Same with violence in video games or, pornographic stuff on that people are watching, or again, foods that people are eating, music that people are listening to, super violent, and it promotes. How can it not promote that? You to think about those things. Over the last 3 or 4 years, I've gotten very conscious, really the last 2 years, gotten very conscious with the music I listen to. In many cases, it's no music at all in the car. The benefit of that is I don't have to hear commercials and I don't have to hear silly banter. I just get to be with myself and my own thoughts and contemplate and think. And there is so much positive benefit from simply being in silence, right? Listening to your own thoughts, contemplating things, thinking about things, insulating yourself from the weird, wacky world that we live in, right? Not to mention the media. But I don't think enough Americans realize giving over your consciousness and access to your mind in movies and music and pop culture and literature and stuff like that. Oh man, that's how they're shifting society. That's how they're turning us. They're shaping culture, right? We think we're shaping culture, but I don't think we're shaping culture. I think we're being shaped by them. Bad guys, bad actors in the world. Let's talk a little bit around who these people are. Look, we really can't name names because we can get into some sketchy territory, but I make a distinction between JEWIS, and I mean a hard distinction, and political Zionists, right? I don't think anyone would disagree that Hollywood has a long history of exploitation of human beings, adults and children. There is a seedy underbelly of that city and that industry. Last year, Nickelodeon came out and there was a bunch of allegations and I believe even some arrests of a guy, I think he was a producer on one of these channels that had been exploiting children for a long time. Every so often we hear of a news article coming out that says, oh yeah, this producer, writer, director, head of something in Hollywood was, allegedly or convicted of exploiting children. If that's how they are, like remember, how a person is in one area of their life is how they are in every area of their life. How they do one thing is how they do everything. I think those things are just tip of the iceberg. I don't know the whole P. Diddy story, and it could all be a psyop or it could be some legitimate truth to it. But there's no doubt in my mind that Hollywood and that industry is sick. It's sick. I'm surprised those kid Hollywood stars make it out of there with any semblance of, their own being at all. It's ridiculous. I don't think anyone would doubt that industry is sick. So then you ask yourself, well, if the core is sick, how can the fruits that they produce be wholesome? They can't, because you will know them by their fruits, right? You'll know them just by reading the news. We all know that Hollywood exploits human beings. And if they're exploiting human beings physically, they're probably exploiting human beings through the medium that they're producing, right? Through the medium they're producing. Again, I talk about this silent weapons for quiet wars type of idea. A multi-pronged attack, a multi-front attack on human beings, primarily in the West, by bad actors. No pun intended, by bad guys. Those bad guys run Hollywood. They run food corporations in many cases. They run pharmaceutical corporations in many cases. Bankers for sure. Banks and lending, right? They want to enslave people with debt because we live in a beast system and money runs this system that we live in. And they're like, go buy a bunch of shit that you don't need so that I can enslave you. And you'll be my debt slave. I talked about this before. The natural world is very violent. When you look at animals in the natural world, they are violent. I believe human beings are just like that too. Some human beings are just like that too, except we're more sophisticated. Why would a human being want to unalive another human being? Why would a bad guy, not all human beings are bad, some are good. Why would a bad guy want to unalive a human being when they can put that human being into a servitude mode and make them a debt slave for life? Yeah. Tax chattel, debt chattel. Like you'll fund the lifestyle that I want to live because I'll enslave you with debt, or I'll just tax you via the GOV and I'll use your tax dollars against you. Right. I saw a comment on a video a while ago and he nailed it. He said, World War Trace is against us. It is. Financial warfare, psychological warfare, in many cases, physical warfare. Debt slaves, right? A lot of people don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk about it. But regardless, not wanting to hear it or talk about it doesn't change the fact that it is clearly happening. But until the masses, until more people wake up to the fact that it's happening and we tip that scale, it won't be able to change. It won't be able to change. Many people in our world are suffering greatly. And that's what I saw when I started sharing information about what's happening over in Gaza. I see what's happening to Gaza. The attack on the Palestinian people is the same attack that's happening in the West to the Western people. They're just using different bombs, quite frankly. They're using silent weapons for quiet wars in the West, because you don't drop bombs on people in the West. People in the West drop bombs on you. You use cultural subversion to undermine people in the West, coming out of Hollywood, music, pop culture, food, all those things. That's cultural. That's subversion culturally. Silent weapons for quiet wars. That's what's happening in the West. And that's why I feel Hollywood is the tip of the spear, their most powerful propaganda machine, because how else are you going to get the propaganda in the minds if you don't push it out through the movie industry and the music industry and the arts and entertainment industry? That's how it gets in the mind. Like Plato said, storyteller's going to rule the world. So I hope this video helps you look at Hollywood in a different way and be more selective with what you put into your mind. This is your space. That's how you're going to create the world that you want to live in. To that point, let me share with you some information about One Life. One Life is the guide that I created to help you discover your purpose, design a life that is aligned with what the life God wanted you to live, how God created you to be with your strengths and aptitudes and your affinity for certain things, and then also execute that plan on a daily basis. It's a gamification guide, right? Every day, the only person you're competing against is you, right? We're not competing against anyone else but our own limiting beliefs, our own pattern of thinking, of being and doing historically, that is producing the results we're living out in our experience every day. And this is why I say it's so powerful in the mind. Like whatever you're going to put into your mind is going to influence the experiences that you have in life. I always say that being is at the headwaters of experience. Being dictates having. Being dictates doing and having. That's why changing your identity, which is the core process of One Life, and changing the way you see yourself and changing the way you think about yourself is vital to everything else. If you start with doing, if you go, I'm going to go do this task without first thinking, well, who do I want to be when I show up to do this task? What kind of qualities do I want to embody? What kind of person do I want to be as I'm doing this task? You will notice a marked difference in the way you do that task, depending on how you approach it with your mind, with your state of being. Being and doing causes the results that we have. But most people, and I'm just as guilty historically, if we forget to go, oh, well, who am I when I start this task? Am I going to be the same person I was yesterday and last year and 5 years ago? Well, if you be that same person in your mind and think of yourself in that same way, that's what being is. Thinking of yourself, it's your self-concept, it's your self-image, your identity. If you approach the task with the same mindset that you had a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, guess what? You're going to get the same results. But if you show up and go, you know what? I'm going to pretend to be a different person. Again, the person that God intended me to be before life de-geniused you. That's what it's all about. This is why I say little prayers when I pass little kids going into kindergarten. I'm like, please don't let them de-genius you. Stay you. Stay curious, stay wonder, filled with wonder. Don't let life de-genius you. Got a little sniffly here. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. That's my piece. You can learn more at thisismyonelife.com. Make it count. Don't go through life being the same person you've always been. Grow and expand and do challenging things. Get out of your comfort zone. Again, I made this guide for me because I am a comfort-a-frickin-holic. Absolutely every day. But It's just like an alcoholic can take it one day at a time, a comfortaholic can take it one day at a time. And then do things different. I'm going to be different. I'm going to stretch myself. I'm going to jump off that cliff every day. Steve Harvey, watch that video, jump. It's one of the videos, the collection of videos in One Life. Again, check it out at thisismyonelife.com. Have an awesome day. I appreciate you. Leave me a thumbs up if you like this video, and I will talk to you in the next one. All the best, health, wealth, and success.